Hey Jib, I just watched an interesting video on Facebook that's basically about a policeman in America that gets owned by a law student because he knows his rights. And I was just reading through the comments, and it just cracked me up how oh yeah, that bloke's acting like an arse and treating that cop like a complete arsehole, you know. So you're soon too quick to phone up the cops when you need their help. The last people in the world I'd phone up if I needed help would be the police, if you want the absolute truth. Um, but that kind of statement alone just proves that people really are brainwashed and don't know their rights. You know, you're issued a birth certificate at birth, which it gives you a corporation name. You can only have a contract with a person. Actually, person's a legally name. Human being, you can't have a contract with a flesh and blood human being. You have to have a contract with a name. You probably, I don't know if you've ever noticed that everything that you get through the post that's official, a government official, inland revenue, that kind of sort of thing, is always capitalised. Capital Dominio Maximus means basically you give up all your rights as a human being and become a corporate entity. And when you're born, the doctor, issues you a birth certificate and such, or you're issued a birth certificate. Like when the ship comes into dock and is issued a birth certificate. And I don't know, especially if you're English, everyone's been to France on a school trip. I don't know if you've ever noticed that when you get on a ferry, when you leave the port after a certain period of time, like a mile away from the edge of the coast, the law changes and the fruit machines are turned on, and you can all of a sudden buy alcohol duty free and all this stuff. It's because you're on the sea. Maritime law, law of the sea. Law of the sea is banking law, cash flow, currency. It's not rocket science, is it? Banking law is law of the sea. Current sea, cash flow. There's two things. Current account. So it's not rocket science. Well, maritime law does actually require your consent. Last time I looked, I lived on the land. Don't know about anyone else, but I live on the land, and therefore common law is the only law that applies to me. And common law is loss or pain. If you are beaten up, if you have something stolen from you, if your property is destroyed, if you're hurt in any way, or have a loss in any way. That's the only law that applies, and that's the only law that the police uphold the oath to the Queen, and they have an oath that they have to state, that basically to the Queen, and if they don't uphold that oath, they can be deemed as being treasonous. So when a policeman confronts you in the street and asks for your name, by asking for your name, you're giving consent. By just giving your name, you're giving consent. Now, unless a crime has been committed, there's a difference between lawful and criminal, and all these other. There's all different sort of plays on words and stuff. But you could say I'm commonly known as, and give a name. The moment your rights are read, if you say anything other than no comment, you're consenting, and they try and make you consent. When you walk, if you're going to court and you stand in the docks, and the sea's in front of you and the ship is in front of it, and the magistrates come in to the ship and everyone stands. By standing, you consent to maritime law. Maritime law is a law that is consented by the governed, right? So if you're governed, it's consented by the governed. Basically, if you vote for the government that you've got in, it requires your consent. Well, I don't vote, so I'm not governed. Okay, that my consent isn't given, so therefore it doesn't apply to me. So there are ways of basically wrapping rings round the police, especially if you're innocent as well. It just makes it even better. If you're a law-abiding citizen like myself, then you can just basically wrap them up in circles. And most police who are proper police who've been, old school police, know this. They know it requires consent. Okay? as far as these things and what's going on in the world, a lot more countries and people are realising this and arresting people for treason, etc., etc. But yeah, know your rights. When a policeman asks for your name in the street, say you're walking down the street, let's give an example. You're walking down the street, policeman comes up to you, something's happened, right? And for whatever reason, he don't like the look of you, so he's going to ask you for some ID. So, excuse me, madam, can I have your name, please? And all you need to do is say, oh, sorry, officer, am I obliged to give you my name? Yes, you are obliged to give me a name under section rah-rah-rah of the rah-rah-rah, saying that you need to give me a name, otherwise you're stopping a policeman from acting in his line of duty. So yeah, that's a parliamentary act or statute which requires consent. So then all you reply with is, are you detaining me? He's not detaining you. What's he going to detain you for? The crime that you haven't committed. So he will say no. Am I free to go? Yes, you're free to go. Just walk away. That's it. Right? Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated if there's something that's gone on. If you've been pulled over in a car, you don't want to do it when you're in a car, because by having a driving licence, you've consented to the Road Traffic Act. So unless you give up your driving licence, unregister your car with DVLA, because you're in contract with DVLA, unless you do that, you're in consent. It's like I work for a PAYE company. So while I work for a PAYE company, I consent to employment law, right? I don't want to consent to employment law, and if I was self-employed, I certainly wouldn't pay my taxes, because there's no law to require you to pay taxes. It's a parliamentary act. The thing is people don't know the difference between parliamentary acts and common law. Common law is the only law that exists in this land. Common law is the only law that can be enforced on you. Maritime law is banking law for the rich people who've decided to sort of be clever and turn you into a corporation, right? There's also in England there's I have to find it. It's on my phone. Let me just find it. I'll show you something that's quite where are we? Photos, camera roll. You can probably not see that properly, but if I turn it that way, I'll show you. Can you see the word corporation? It's backwards because the camera's backward. Corporation of Bedford. That actually says Corporation of Bedford. It's a manhole cover, an old manhole cover that says the Corporation of Bedford on it. Yeah? The word United Kingdom is registered on Company House as a corporation. England is the true word that is used for this country, like America is the true word for America. United States of America is the corporate name for maritime law. United Kingdom is the corporate name for maritime law. It's registered on Company House as a corporation. Okay? Corporations are only supposed to be enforced to build bridges and stuff like that. Corporations are bad news. Corporations will take away all your rights. Corporations will enslave you, and corporations will kill you. Why? Why are we not doing something about this? Why? Why? Clearly, I've come to this conclusion, like I've said in another video, that the human race likes being enslaved. The human race likes having all their rights taken away from them, and the human race likes being controlled, dictated to, and told what they can and can't do on a daily basis. Otherwise, you would all do something about it. Peace, love and light.
They brought them with the money from your donation. I buy everything that they sell me. If I can buy enough, then I can be free. They tell me what to drink, they tell me what to think, they tell me how and where to go and have a good time. I will to be here without the fear that everything I am is just another spreadsheet. Don't tell me what to do. I think that there's a little more about me than just another human resource. free of your fashions, free of your share of